Open Market is sponsored by AdLib, the self-serve DSP solution making advertising easy. What do the world's largest demand-side platforms have in common? They're effective, but they require large annual contracts and spend minimums. With AdLib, growing agencies get a single platform that connects to every top global DSP with no contracts, no spend minimums, and G2's #1 ranked support. That means access to the entire universe of TV, digital out-of-home, audio, display, video, and native without a hassle and with no blind spots. It's incredibly easy to use, plus it can automate most of the work your team spends hours a day doing manually. Get the most powerful media buying technology without the barriers to entry. Check out AdLib at getadlib.com today.
Welcome to Open Market, a podcast about building companies in the advertising industry. I'm Joe Zappa. I'm joined by Eric Franchi, and prolific ad tech tweeter, poster, sponsor of podcasts and newsletters, including this one. Thank you. It is Mike Hauptman, the CEO and founder of AdLib. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, everyone. It's going well, thanks. You?
Mike is just coming with a very humble, like, "Hi guys, how you doing?" And I'm like giving him the uproarious intro, but
I'm doing awesome. Maybe a bit more enthused than I came off initially, but I'm also pumped to be on this podcast with you both. Thank you. I've been listening for even longer than we've been sponsoring, and appreciate finally getting to connect with you both here directly.
Awesome. We have a unique conversation we're going to have today about a journey that you went on with your biz. But for those who are not familiar with you, not familiar with AdLib, give them the elevator pitch.
So most mid-sized marketers who are looking at accessing DSPs are typically struggling to access some of the more premium platforms that give them access to everything that they need, and wind up getting access to a smaller platform, which is great, but somewhat limited in terms of capabilities and ultimately where they want to be. So what we decided to do was build AdLib, which is a singular interface, single point of entry to all of the enterprise DSPs. So you can sign up for AdLib with no contracts, no spend minimums. It's a single UI that's really easy to use, and anybody can basically get started running campaigns across all the premium CTV, digital at home, mobile app installs, where historically that may have been much more challenging to do, even if you had access to the platform. Doing and kind of accomplishing and making it do what you want it to do is really hard. So we've simplified not only the access, but the usability.
So an omni-channel meta DSP of sorts.
The fabled meta DSP, yes.
and before we get to the conversation, real fast, Mike, what's your background before AdLib?
So both Dan and I, Dan Bugard, co-founder, CTO, he's over in the UK. We worked at MediaMath for about 9 years together. So I built out the technical solutions team at MediaMath from square one, basically. Was one of the first 100 employees there, the first sales engineer, and then wound up customizing the platform for MediaMath's most sophisticated marketers. Dan was overseeing all of engineering for the core UI and the core APIs prior to joining AdLib full-time. And before that, we both worked at Mediaplex together, the old ad server. So we were at ValueClick, kind of working there for a few years together, and joined MediaMath, and we're always just tinkering, and finally hit on something that stuck, and we're out to build our way out of MediaMath over, for me, it was about 3 years, almost 4 years.
That's amazing. For the listeners, tweet at us or X at us if you've ever heard of Mediaplex prior to that name drop.
Yeah, Mojo Ad Server, Mojo SEM, Mojo Email, and Mojo Pub. Awesome independent ad server under the ValueClick umbrella, which is now Conversant, still doing their thing.
Amazing.
often I'll be on sales calls and someone will be like, "Well, you remember in the early 2000s when like so-and-so happened." And I'm like, "Yes, sir, I definitely remember that. I was not in elementary school at that time." Mike just made a pained face.
It was a long time ago, man. I'm just thinking about my outfits back then, and like fresh out of college, like old man outfits from Men's Warehouse, and lots of painful memories from back then.
Mike, I actually have a question about AdLib that I bet a lot of people would have if they're only like basically familiar with the company. So like you started talking about the mid-size agency marketer. So I think a lot of people in the industry, if they hear that, Like the meta DSP thing makes sense, but then they might wonder like, okay, so you could use a meta DSP, which has these accessibility benefits. You could also use a DSP that has historically been associated with the mid-market. Like you could use like a stack adapt. Could you explain the difference there?
So the challenge that we've been highlighting to the mid-market is one that's pretty well discussed at this point in fragmentation, especially in channels like CTV, where StackAdapt is an amazing platform. They've built a very solid offering. At least right now, CTV is still very exclusive and very fragmented. So you can only access Netflix through a handful of platforms. Now it's 3, right? Xandr or DV360 and Beeswax. If you want to access YouTube, you need to access that through DV360. If you want to access Amazon Twitch or Amazon Prime, you can only do that through Amazon's platform. So as an agency who really wants to be able to expand and grow in the CTV space, you would need to have at least 3 to 4, maybe even 5 licenses to be able to say yes to every single RFP and win all the business that's coming your way. That's expensive. There's minimums, there's learning curves, there's logging in and out of different platforms, and there's pulling data in. That's all super fragmented experience for the user. Then when you start to look at different data providers, different targeting options, not all of that is available through the existing accessible platforms. So you find some more sophisticated marketers that are trying to do maybe more advanced bid factoring and more advanced targeting. Some of that is not available. The specialized kind of channels right now, mobile app installs, we're driving a lot of success with Moloko, which is just super specialized, doing a great thing in the CPI and engagement and re-engagement world. If you want to succeed and actually win in that world, you need to be running on Moloko or Kaizen. Digital at home, kind of same story. As you really peel back the layers of each channel, it's a little bit of a game of Plinko. It's like I think about it visually, right? You put something in and then, oh, it needs to run here, but it needs to target this user, but it needs to have this performance objective. And I need log files. And those log files need to have mobile ad IDs. Well, at the end of it, it could potentially only fit in one slot. And that's a challenge. And then why should I be limited to only one platform? What if I want to do a head-to-head and allow the best platform to win out? AdLib is now enabling that because you could set it up once in AdLib. You could have the objective defined once, the creative upload once, and then AdLib will distribute the budget across multiple DSPs, splitting it out by region, and allocate the budget dynamically to each platform. So you'd want to have access to multiple platforms to maximize results, and also not be beholden to a single platform. And that's what we're trying to unlock for not only the mid-sized agencies, but holding companies are having the same challenge. We're not quite there yet in terms of our scale and our ability to support them, but we're having a lot more interest in conversations in how we can in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. So there are individual DSPs that have been more engineered for the mid-market, but no one DSP gets you everything. So even if you are that mid-market buyer, you could still have use for something like AdLib in the sense that you're going to want to be able to reach your customers or your clients' customers wherever they are, and you need access to multiple DSPs at an affordable price point to do that.
Definitely. I'm saying, I'm using the term, we're not an or, right? A lot more often. We're an and. Great. Keep what you're doing. We don't want to rock the boat. When you get an RFP, you get an opportunity and you don't have a way of servicing that today, just come to us. You don't need to go get a license. You don't need to ramp up a team. Your team can effectively start selling everything today. Go talk to your sales team, see what they're missing, see what's being left on the table, and then know that we're an option to supplement or complement anything that you're already doing.
When you first said we're not an or, as in we're an and, not an or, I heard or like the thing you use to row a boat. And I was like, oh shit, a new boat metaphor is dropping on the pod. Like, this is filled with all these different like vehicular metaphors.
Yeah, I steer clear of the nautical metaphors.
So what happens when your boat sinks?
Oh, man.
For those who didn't get it, Joe, please elaborate.
So AdLib, you can give us the exact story, Mike, but basically my understanding is AdLib, really came out of your experience at MediaMath, and you talked to Joe Zawadzki, who's of course CEO, founder of MediaMath, like when you were starting AdLib, and it was really built on that technology. And then MediaMath sort of shuttered a year ago, but you guys can correct me on the exact details. And so obviously you had to reinvent AdLib at that point, but tell us the story of what happened, and then of course how you did approach that reinvention.
July 3rd, 2023 at about 12 p.m. before 4th of July weekend. I might be slightly off about the date, but it was a Friday right before 4th of July weekend at 12 p.m. Got an email in our inbox letting us know that at midnight, all activity on the MediaMath platform would pause. At that point, we had built our business 100% on MediaMath infrastructure, and 100% of our campaign activity was running through MediaMath. So that sucked. And we didn't have much of a choice, and I didn't have much of a choice, but to figure out what is cursing allowed on this podcast?
Yeah, you can do some cursing.
It sucked. I didn't know what the fuck to do next. I went through all the stages of grief, like really fast, and we didn't have a $0 day. And I called all the clients. I called a bunch of friends. I phoned in some favors. We worked through the weekend. We worked through that night, and we got some campaigns live that same day on other platforms.
Yeah, so that was a very fast recap. There's a couple things I want to drill into here. So number one, what was it like when you received that email? And I'm sure you can picture it perfectly, like where you were, what you were wearing, how you felt. Like, what was your reaction when you got the email that we're going to be basically shutting off your business and there's nothing you can do about it in about 8-12 hours?
Eric is just making Mike relive a trauma in real time.
It was, listen, I've into a ton of therapy since then for many reasons. So I'm okay with reliving it. But yeah, it was surreal. Honestly, like we kind of saw a little bit of writing on the wall. We never thought it would really happen. We thought that it would be maybe acquired and things would stay on. Dan and I were in a little bit of denial. There's a little bit of a birdie in our ear, the 24 hours prior to that we should maybe expect that something was going to happen, but we really didn't believe it. So we were just in denial. And my kid came home from school an hour, like 30 minutes later with my wife, and I just talked to her. And I was like, this happened. Don't quite know what to do. I want to go for a walk. And she said something to the effect of, you'll figure it out. And listen, I had at this point, I had a 2.5-year-old, and the next one was coming in 2 months. So I just knew that I didn't have a choice but to figure it out. And like, if you had told me like a week prior to that MediaMath was going to shut down, I would have said, okay, well, that's the end of the business. That was a good run. But I just couldn't. So, kind of went into solution mode.
Yeah, I asked this not to make you relive the stress of the past, but because I think what you did next was incredible. And you worked hard and fast and made stuff happen. So you went for a walk, you came back. What did you do first? Did you contact customers to give them a heads up, or did you contact potential partners to allow for maybe less disruption to customer campaigns? Like which one did you address first? And then what did you do?
I sent an email to our top like 5 or 6 clients saying, hey, we chat. And put my number in there. And most of them call me back really quickly, or some of them says, yeah, let's chat. And I told them what happened. I told them what we knew. And I told them that I am working to figure out what is next. And I will keep them updated as much, throughout the day and with whatever progress I have. And every single one of them basically said, that sucks. We work with you because we know that you will get things done. We believe in you. Let us know what is coming and how we're going to get back up and running, and how long we should anticipate things being dark for, like what's realistic. Just keep us posted so we can manage expectations. And that was incredibly reaffirming and just helpful in knowing that it wasn't necessarily going to be the end of the world and their clients were going to stick around and they believed in us. And it wasn't just MediaMath. It was like, media, like, we don't care if it's MediaMath. We don't care if it's other platforms. We like what your platform does for us and how you help us make it all easier. So whatever like DSP that is, just go figure it out. And that's kind of where we went. That's where I went next. And I called some friends who I knew ran smaller agencies and said, I've got some business for you. It's going to be a quick turnaround. Like, let's figure out the, how and the commercials over the next few days. But like, can you help me out and kind of sleep on your couch and cash in some favors? And that's what we did. And that was next. And most of that happened on the walk. Obviously, I went for a walk for like 45 minutes, an hour, and came back and just started doing, like, literally migrating campaigns.
That's incredible. So you were in a state of shock for it sounds like maybe it was minutes. You went for a walk and then leapt into action mode.
Yeah, it all happened really, really fast.
You didn't have a choice to sit, stressed out and wallow. Yeah, I get it.
No,
Gotcha.
we have enough. We're bootstrapped, right? Like, the story is AdLib rates $30K in 2014. We were 3 people at that point in time, and we, it was either sink or swim.
Yeah, back to the boats. I think there's a really important lesson there in how you handle that with customers. Like, when you have a crisis, especially if it's out of your control, just leveling with them, just like get honest real quick. Don't try to like, how are we going to finesse this or whatever? Just be like, this happened. Here's the situation. Here's what I think I'm going to do to address it, or here's what I'm going to do to address it. And on some level, when you have like close customers, like those 5 or 6 most important customers, you need to trust them to handle that information. And you also just like, I don't think you really have a choice, like the other choice is to obscure things, and that I don't see a lot of upside there.
There wasn't. And it wasn't all rosy. We lost our biggest client, still the number 1 lifetime spending client on AdLib, left us about a month after because we couldn't get it done. So it didn't all work out, but it all worked out in the end, for sure. So we have a much more solid offering. We're more resilient as a team and as a platform. And, I don't think maybe we wouldn't have made it if we just were only MediaMath, because there's so much headwind right now, right? And trying to compete as an also second tier, like, easy DSP, we've gotten wiped off the map at this point, I think.
What were the next month or two like in terms of you thinking about, where do I take this business next? What can I do to become stronger?
It's pretty enlightening, and it was freeing, because now we were able to do more. So we started looking at the business and trying to figure out exactly what we were and what we could be. And I don't think we really figured that out for about 6 months. Could we be a reporting platform that consolidates reporting? Or could we be a Shopify add-on? What is our kind of like super different? What can we spin out? What can we make happen? Had a list of, did this.
My showing us a piece of paper with a bunch of boxes and words with like,
what are we going to be next? Do we lean into mid-sized DSP? Do we build an analytics platform? Do we lean into our Magic Ads product? Do we offer a offering just for pubs? Like try to like verticalize the things that we're doing. And I crossed out most of it because it was harder to sell, and the other stuff was selling. So I leaned into kind of what was working over the next 6 months, and we revisited our collateral and the ways in which we were talking about the product. And I'd say like January, February of last year, I had a little bit of a coming out party, just reestablishment of who we were. And I think we really clicked at Digiday Nashville earlier this year as like exactly where we have the right to win. So that was February I think, March. So 8 months after, so roughly 7 months after, like, oh, like mid-sized agencies, indie agencies who had tools that are great, locked out of this market, better tools, less risk, better results. And we started getting a lot of nods, and a lot of this makes a lot of sense.
Right. So it's now 5 months later?
Yeah, probably like 7 months, I think.
So what have you done from that time through now that repositioned AdLib? Because again, you're a sponsor of the pod. Thank you. We know each other. You're on the radar. But I think that the market thinks about AdLib as the meta DSP. So you've done a lot of like good work in a short period of time. So for founders, the marketers, everybody that listens to this pod that are thinking about positioning, repositioning, catching the market up, like what did you do? What worked?
Being nimble and fast and putting myself out there. You've got the benefit of me being the marketing team and being able to approve and seek out kind of, I don't want to say undervalued space, but new and emerging ways to get the brand out there. And I haven't hesitated. So thing one, I really focused on building out content strategy and just blasting out a ton of content on LinkedIn and on X. I connect with every single person that I've ever had a meeting with or emailed with on LinkedIn. I'm going to be in your feed multiple times a day. I started partnering with a content shop that upped the quality of our content, and it was really more focused. We started having a story and focusing on the story that we wanted to tell versus just kind of more generic content creation. And then just personally replying and being present and following Joe and commenting on all of his stuff and just drafting and standing on the shoulders of giants. So just started going to a lot of events. Honestly, I think the hat works because people see me now in person and they're like, walk up to me and say, oh, AdLib Mike, yeah, I follow you on Twitter. I like they connect the dots. Just being able to just, again, be a little bit smaller and more nimble has really benefited us. And yeah.
Mike, I think you have exactly the right instincts to do founder-led marketing for a startup. And I think, frankly, it would benefit you way down the line. Like, I think CEOs of much larger companies could also run the same playbook and benefit a lot from it. But especially for a startup that has to be scrappy, you are doing the prolific, present, and personable model, right? That's like one of the ways to win with ad tech marketing. You are like omnipresent, and you essentially created the meta DSP category, as far as I know, like overnight. And that's how you did it. From what I can tell is, you have purchase in the space. You've been around for a while, and like people know you, but you're just relentless. And like you're on Twitter, you're on LinkedIn, you're sponsoring like media properties in the space, especially, podcasts and properties like this that are like reaching the like influencer crowd who is going to be able to introduce you to other people. So yeah, I just think it's a great model for others to follow, and commend you on that.
What turned you into the 3P Mike?
So we went from 3 people to 12 people since the MediaMath event.
Event.
Oh, what it is, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
MediaMath last man. Before that, I was working in the business and doing everything. So I made a conscious decision to hire and bring on board an operator to allow me to free up my time to build awareness, get out in front of people, and raise more awareness about what we're doing. So it was hard. Still involved in a lot of the day-to-day, but it was a concerted effort to really get myself a little bit out of my comfort zone and go into events, which I never did before. I still can't bring myself to go to Cannes. Maybe I'll drag myself there this year, but I've been trying to put myself out there.
Yeah.
I think the kids help. Honestly, I think I don't have much of a choice. I've built my own business from scratch. I'm wanting to put myself out there to keep things growing, and having it literally keep food on the table is a super motivator. And pulling myself out of the business was, finally the key to allowing me to do that.
It's so interesting because, oftentimes, and Joe could comment on this, we talk to CEOs of much larger businesses that struggle with this whole idea of getting more visible, being more prolific, having more of an external face. And they're not coming from the standpoint of, I think, being too much in the business rather than on the business. A lot of them are just coming from the standpoint of, I think they're just afraid, right? Like afraid of being criticized, afraid of being like trolled, afraid of not doing it well. You have you've got a good instinct. And I guess to your point, when it's existential, like you're going to figure out how to put yourself out there.
I think so, man. I grew up in the social media age where we were always online. We were always on AIM. For me, the AOL Instant Messenger show, it was this thing where you had...
Oh my God. I did that one.
You had it on your desktop computer at college, and it was away, and you had these away messages, and I was always very into the away messages and like the emo, like music, like lyrics or movie quote, and just kind of harness that. Like I was always online, I was always figuring it out, and there's a big opportunity for those that just put yourself out there. There's, I don't want to say a changing of the guard in ad tech, but there is definitely a new generation of folks like me who are just used to putting themselves out there and used to putting out on social media and being a little less buttoned up. And that's okay, I think.
More than okay. It's the truth.
Yeah. On the weekends, I'm the same person I am on the weekend as I am in a business meeting, as I am in a online. So you get me no matter who you are, and that's, all the good and all the bad. So I think that resonates a lot with people also.
I don't know if this is an extremely douchey thing to do, but I am going to read this quote from Matt Barish from last week on the pod, because I think he said something that expresses like so well the dynamic that we're talking about. He said, I basically kicked off the pod and asked him, like, tell us your main shtick. And he was like, we are in the people business, first and foremost. So while ad tech is the industry we work in, it doesn't matter what you do. You are competing for people's time and attention. Whether you are buying something, selling something, partnering, it doesn't matter. It's important to be relevant. So when I think about what I do well, it's really connecting with people. I re-listened to that pod this morning, and because I always re-listen to inform the social posts that I write. And it just resonated so deeply with me, because I think that a lot of people, especially CEOs and founders, they almost view like being online and competing for attention as like frivolous, where they're like I've had CEOs be say, for example, like, oh, will people think I don't have a real job, if I'm like on LinkedIn and Twitter? And it's like, that is your job. Like, you're like, part of your job is evangelism. And in order for you and the company to thrive, people need to be thinking about you. If your customers are thinking about your competitors and not thinking about you, you are going to lose, and that is going to have an impact on sales and the revenue of the company. So it's not frivolous, and it's critical to modern go-to-market and to the prosperity of every company in the industry. And as we were talking about, I think the way you've approached AdLib in the wake of the MediaMath collapse has been illustrative of that philosophy.
Yeah. It's the reality of meeting people where they are. And we're spending, when I look at my screen time, I'm sure this group, we're spending a lot of time on social media, spending a lot of time on X. I spend a lot of time on Reddit. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I spend a lot less time on Facebook and, Instagram than I used to, but I still spend a decent amount of time on there. And when I get targeted with SaaS ads on Facebook, I found some actually really useful ones, and I've converted. So I think if we were to just be very honest with ourselves and look at our own screen time and where we're spending time, our peers are also spending time there. People are still checking emails, formalities, but it's like humans are just spending way more time in those channels. And if you're bold enough to, I don't want to say bold, but if you're bold enough to be there and just be active on Reddit and in the ad ops and the programmatic sub-channels, it works really good for SEO.
Eric, you actually said something about this that like forever changed the way I think about it. And it shifted like argument A and argument B, because when you and I spoke about this on the pod a few months ago, this dynamic where like social is more and more important for marketing, I was looking at it from the supply side, and I was talking about like there are more marketers than ever and like fewer media sites and journalists. So it's like the old school PR thing just doesn't work as well because there are fewer places to take your story. And you were like, yes, but the most important dynamic is what Mike just said. It's where are we all as individuals just spending our time and consuming information? Like it's very weird in B2B. We treat B2B customers as if they're like these mythical beasts who aren't just like the consumers we all are, and as if they're not just operating the way the majority of people operate. Like they're getting their information and they're spending their time on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Reddit because that's how we all spend our time and how we all get our information out. Like, yes, we also go to media sites, but we spend more time on social. And then there are also other channels like podcasts and newsletters and so on. So a lot of this is just about re-engineering your go-to-market approach based on how the modern consumer behaves. And you don't need to overthink that. As you said a few months ago, Eric, and as you just said, Mike, you just have to look at your own behavior and your coworkers' own behavior.
Yeah, it's as simple as that, right? Like, how does the average person, whether it's B2B or B2C, how do they get their information? How do they start their day, right? Like, they're not going to their front steps dressed in a bathrobe like Tony Soprano and getting the New Jersey Star Tribune. They're flipping open X, they're flipping open LinkedIn, they're getting their information that way, right? So if your job is to, capture that attention, you got to be there.
Blue Sky.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah. But the ad tech community is gaining some serious steam on Blue Sky. So if you're not there already, sign up.
Were you on Blue Sky?
It's becoming ignominious that I'm not there. I'm going to have to go there.
You got to go there, man. There's attention to be had, dude.
You're right.
Yeah.
All right. It's going to happen today. I'll commit. I'm going to be on there by the end of today. You know what it is like, I'm just like, guys, why are you giving me another platform that I need to be prolific on? Like, I'm already doing Twitter and LinkedIn. Isn't that enough? But it's not enough. And I will go where the people are and eat my own dog food. So you will see me there by the end of today.
I don't know what this says about me, most likely, but I signed, like, when everybody said, okay, you have to sign up for Blue Sky, like last week. And I signed up and created my screen name. And then maybe it was just like everything was crashing. And like, I couldn't figure it out, like things weren't loading, or maybe I just can't figure it out. I just threw up my hands after 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm out. So Eric Franchi's on Blue Sky, but Eric Franchi's not on Blue Sky. I'm gonna need some instructions from you kids.
Yeah, Threads is not happening, right? Because I did get on Threads because like Ad Tech God was like, you have to get on Threads. And then I was like, I don't really think this is happening.
Threads was, I think, like an overnight, kind of lost its steam really quickly. Blue Sky seems, at least for now, much more community oriented, and there's just less noise. So you didn't instantly bring on board every single person that you are Facebook friends from high school and all these influencers and celebrities. You can get very narrow in what you're seeing. So right now I'm basically only following ad tech people. So it's been pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, that would be very smart for them to focus on, is keeping it community oriented, because obviously what's driving a lot of traffic from Twitter to Blue Sky is the disquiet over the politics and Elon Musk and so on. But I think it's also like beyond the politics. It's just that people feel like Twitter has historically been this community oriented space in the same way Reddit is, and that it's become more TikTok like, more viral. You're seeing stuff from outside that community. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it still has a generally positive vibe. There's way less trolling for now, which is also nice to see. So hopefully it can hold the fort on that.
Nice. Hopefully that ship will cruise into a future of beautiful, still waters that are not disrupted by capsizing boats and oars of various kinds.
Paddle my way out of here now. His shit before he was.
That's a perfect note to end on.
I was gonna say before we do, Mike, having observed over the course of the past year and a half now, I give you a ton of credit for coming out the other side stronger, better, more resilient, and positioned really well for the future. So I just want to say great job.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it, man.
Where can people find you? Not on Blue Sky, on other places on the internet. Where can they find AdLib?
On X at AdLib DSP. I'm on X at Hauptman Michael, and LinkedIn, just AdLib DSP, etc. Pretty easy to find.
Joe, you want to take us home?
Yeah, thanks so much, Mike. Everyone, subscribe to the pod, find us all, follow us on Twitter, yell at us in the public square. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
See you next week, everybody.